Imagine standing on the south bank of the Thames on a misty morning in the year 1640. Before you lies not the sprawling metropolis of modern London, but two distinct cities, the commercial powerhouse of the City of London to the east and, separated by open fields and the grand houses of the Strand, the seat of royal power, Westminster. This is not just a district, it is the beating heart of the English monarchy, a stage where the drama of divine right, absolute ambition, and revolutionary fervor would play out across a turbulent century. For the next 10 minutes, we will walk its streets, enter its palaces, and witness the very nature of royal power being tested, broken, and reshaped. We arrive in the final decades of the Stuart dynasty. King Charles I sits on the throne, a believer in the divine right of kings, answerable only to God. Yet, across the courtyard at the Palace of Westminster, the institution of Parliament grows increasingly restless over taxes, religion, and the limits of royal authority. Westminster in the 1600s is the physical embodiment of this tension. Here, the monarch's magnificent palace, the government's ancient hall, and the nation's coronation church stand within a few hundred yards of each other. Every brick, every bustling street tells a story of concentrated power and the forces gathering to challenge it. Our reconstruction is guided by historical maps, architectural plans, and the meticulous engravings of artists like Wenceslaus Hollar, who captured these streets in the 1640s. We combine these with contemporary accounts to visualize this lost world. This is not fantasy, but a responsible visualization of a pivotal place at a pivotal time. Let us begin our journey where all official visitors did, on the River Thames. The water is a busy highway of worries, barges, and trading vessels. We glide westward, the twin towers of Westminster Abbey rising ahead. To our left, a sprawling, rambling complex of buildings stretches along the bank for nearly a quarter of a mile. This is Whitehall Palace, the main residence of English monarchs since Henry VIII. It is not a single, coherent structure, but a small town of over 1,500 rooms, a labyrinth of Tudor brick, medieval stone, and Renaissance ambition. At the palace watergate, the air is thick with the smell of river mud, damp stone, and smoke from countless hearths. Ahead lies the King's Street, a broad thoroughfare running through the palace complex. We move past the Holbein Gate, a towering Tudor arch that divides the precinct. To our right, courtyards echo with the clatter of hooves and the chatter of courtiers. This is a city within a city, housing not just the royal family, but hundreds of nobles, officials, servants, and seekers of patronage. Stephen Fox, clerk of the green cloth to Charles II, would later build himself a virtual mansion within these walls. Now, we turn to face the architectural symbol of Stuart royal ambition, the Banqueting House. Completed in 1622 to a design by Inigo Jones, it is a stark departure from the Gothic intricacies around it. Its facade is a serene essay in classical proportion, built of honey-colored Oxfordshire stone. This building was created to glorify the reign of James I and his son, Charles. Inside, the ceiling is a breathtaking propaganda piece, 9 canvases by Peter Paul Rubens, installed in 1636, depicting the apotheosis of James I as a divine ruler. Here, in this double-cube hall, the king hosted masques, received ambassadors, and performed the ritual of monarchy under a ceiling that proclaimed his God-given right to rule. But let us step outside the palace walls and into the wider town of Westminster. The energy shifts from courtly ceremony to the vibrant chaos of daily life. We walk up King's Street, now Whitehall, towards the ancient Palace of Westminster. This complex is no longer a royal residence sits. Residential quarters burned in 1512, but the administrative heart of the kingdom. Its great hall, Westminster Hall, built by William Rufus, is one of the largest medieval roofs in Europe. Entering its vast, shadowy interior, we are struck by the noise. This is not a silent monument. It is a covered marketplace and a social hub. Along the walls, dozens of small shops, each about 8 feet wide, jostle for space. By 1666, there were 48 such stalls here. Booksellers, wigmakers, and stationers catered to the lawyers and politicians. The diarist Samuel Pepys would often come here to browse for books and gloves. In this very hall, under this magnificent hammer-beam roof, the law courts sit, parliamentarians debate, and merchants trade. It is a powerful reminder that the king's power is exercised amidst and often through the clamor of his subjects. A short walk north brings us to the spiritual anchor of royal power, Westminster Abbey. Since 1066, this Gothic masterpiece has been the coronation church for English monarchs. In the early 1600s, it hosted scholars working on the King James Bible in its Jerusalem chamber. It is a royal peculiar, accountable directly to the sovereign, not to a bishop. As we stand in the nave, the weight of history is palpable. The tombs of Elizabeth I and Mary I are here. The body of Oliver Cromwell would be given a lavish funeral here in 1658, only to be disinterred and desecrated after the Restoration. The Abbey sanctifies power, buries it, and, in times of revolution, becomes a pawn in the struggle for its control. Beyond these grand institutions, Westminster is a living, breathing community. Narrow alleys run off the main thoroughfares, lined with timber-framed houses and newer brick buildings. The air carries the scent of baking bread, brewing ale, and less pleasant odors from open gutters. Hawkers cry their wares. This is where the palace servants live, where tradesmen supply the court, and where the growing population of clerks and officials make their homes. The proximity to power creates a unique economy, one of luxury and service, but also of gossip and intrigue. It is here, at the intersection of the monarch's divine pretension and the people's reality, that our story reaches its devastating turning point. The tensions simmering in the 1640s erupt into civil war. By January 1649, the conflict is over, and King Charles I is a prisoner. On the cold morning of the 30th, a black-draped scaffold is erected directly outside the Banqueting House, the building meant to glorify his father's dynasty. Imagine the scene. A silent, shivering crowd fills the street. The king steps through a first-floor window onto the platform. He wears two shirts, so he might not shiver and be mistaken for fear. He gives a short speech, asserts his innocence, and places his head on the block. With one stroke, the unthinkable happens. A divinely anointed king is executed by order of his own parliament. The Rubens ceiling inside, celebrating divine right, now looks down on an empty, ironic stage. This act shatters the ancient concept of monarchy itself. The Banqueting House, designed for masks and pageantry, becomes the backdrop for regicide. For the next 11 years, England becomes a republic. The monarchy would return in 1660 with Charles II, and Whitehall Palace would see renewed festivity. But the fundamental relationship between king and subject had changed forever. The palace itself would meet a fiery end in 1698, burning to the ground in a catastrophic fire started by a maid drying linen. Only the Banqueting House, the site of the king's execution, would be saved on the express orders of the surveyor Christopher Wren. Today, the landscape of power is unrecognizable, yet deeply familiar. Where Whitehall Palace once sprawled, now stand the solemn buildings of the British government, the Ministry of Defense, the Cabinet Office. The name Whitehall is itself a metonym for executive power. The Banqueting House still stands, its Rubens ceiling intact, a solitary survivor. You can stand on the spot where Charles I died and look up at the painted glory he believed in until the end. Westminster Hall, now a silent vestibule of Parliament, has borne witness to everything from the trials of Thomas More and Charles I to the lying-in state of monarchs and prime ministers. The Abbey continues to crown kings and queens. Our walk through 17th century Westminster reveals a profound truth. Power is never static. It is built in stone and ceremony, challenged in halls of debate, and ultimately defined on the streets where people live, work, and witness history. The century that began with the absolute certainty of divine right ended with the slow, irrevocable rise of parliamentary authority. The palaces may be dust, but the questions posed here about authority, liberty, and the contract between ruler and ruled echo down the centuries to our own time. We are left not with a simple story of kings and castles, but with a far more human and enduring drama. The perpetual, uneasy, and necessary conversation about where power truly resides.